Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see very important topics that appeared in our today's newspaper. First of all, I'll let you know important topics of the day, and later on I will explain each and every topic from prelims and as well as mains point of view. And at last we are going to see some prelims based questions so that you can understand how questions can be asked. Okay, now let us see the first article. First topic, it is about Calcutta High Court rejects government objections. Calcutta High Court rejects government objections to Nicobar Police. So this article is talking about Great Nicobar Development Project, and many a times many petitions are filed before court regarding the challenges of this Great Nicobar project. And now High Court of Calcutta rejects government plea. So this topic is important from GS paper 3 under environment and ecology. Our next topic is Bangladesh failed to give actionable response, says India. So this article is talking about India-Bangladesh relations, and it is talking about one important challenge between India and Bangladesh, that is illegal migrants. So India wants to repatriate them. That means India wants to send them back to Bangladesh. Many a times India wrote letter regarding Bangladesh to identify those people, but from Bangladesh there is no response. Because of this it is in news. And this topic is important from GS paper 2 under international relations. Our next topic is DRDO, Indian Air Force conduct maiden trail of Tara glide weapon. This article is talking about Tara glide weapon. You may get a prelims based question from this area, and it is important from your science and technology from GS paper 3. And next topic is 2 Indians on ship hit by Hanta virus. If there is any new disease or virus or bacteria which is in news, obviously you have to know that. UPSC can ask you a question on that. Okay, so here you have to know about this Hanta virus. It is from science and technology from GS paper 3. And next one is a watershed movement in India's defense posture. So actually this article is talking about 1 year of Operation Sindoor, and here you have to know which kind of developments India made after this Operation Sindoor. Those are the things which are highlighted in this article, and this topic is important from our defense from GS paper 3. So these all are the topics now we are going to see in this class. Okay, look at this title, guys. Calcutta High Court rejects government objections to Nicobar plea. To understand this article, again you have to know basics of Great Nicobar Development Project. Okay, first of all we have to see where is Nicobar located. Nicobar is part of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. If you say location here, this is India, this is Bay of Bengal region, and here we have Himalayas. Okay, so if you see geographically, this Andaman and Nicobar is extension of Himalayas region, and it is present in Bay of Bengal. Okay, so top one is Andaman and below one is Nicobar. So which channel will be dividing this Andaman and Nicobar? 10 degrees channel, that you have to remember. And this one here is in this Nicobar region we are going for development. So that project is called as Great Nicobar Development Project. In this project, what we are constructing? First one is we are constructing transshipment port. We are constructing one port. And next one is we are constructing one airport. And we are going for development of township. Township is nothing but hotels, restaurants, amenities for the people. And this one is we are going for solar and gas power plant. Solar and gas power plant. So these all are the 4 that we are going to construct in this Great Nicobar project. First one is one ship port, second one is airport, third one is township, and next one is power plant. Okay, and you know that geography is going on, guys. Yes. So tell me which kind of forest we can see in this Andaman and Nicobar region. Here we have 10 degrees. That means here it is very much near to equator. So because of this, what happens? We can see evergreen forest in this Andaman and Nicobar region. And if you're having this tropical evergreen forest, what can we see? It is rich in plants, it is rich in big tree species, and also it is rich in overall biodiversity in that region, right? If you see about this biodiversity, if you take this fauna is nothing but animals. There are some animals which can be seen only in this Nicobar region. That is nothing but I am talking about endemic species. Endemic species are nothing but the species they can be seen only in that region. Beyond that area we cannot see that animal. So there are some endemic species for this Nicobar region. So if you are going for development of this ports, airports and as well as township etc., what we have to do? First of all, we have to clear the forest area. Yes or no? The first thing that we have to do is we have to clear forest area and we have to go for development in that region. So if we are going for clearing of this forest, then what happens? Loss of loss of plant species, loss of important trees. If we are clearing the forest, can we call it as deforestation? Because of this deforestation, what happens? The amount of carbon dioxide will be released into atmosphere will be more. If more carbon dioxide, more temperature, because it is a greenhouse gas, that will lead to global warming. And recently India came up with this INDCs, NDCs 3.0. What we discussed there, we have to increase our non-fossil fuel capacity, we have to increase our carbon sinks, yes, and even we have to reduce intensity of temperature. All these are three important points in this INDCs. But if you are going for clearing of this forest, can we achieve these targets? It is a big question. And second important question here is, if you are going for development in this coastal region, what happened? In that coastal region, we have different kinds, like we have corals, we have mangroves, and we have other tree species, plant species. It is also going to affect those. You know about corals. We have different types of corals, like fringing reefs, atolls, one more is barrier reefs, right? So whatever the corals which are present in that region will be getting affected. Why these corals are important? They are called as rainforest of ocean, which will accommodate different species of animals. If these corals are affected, obviously that aquatic ecosystem will be getting affected. That is the second important problem. And third important one is, as I said, there are certain species which are affected the most. The first one is leatherback turtles. In this region, we have Galathea Bay. In that Galathea Bay, we can see this leatherback turtles, and it is one of the largest turtle species in the world. We can see that leatherback turtles only here. So if we are going for development here, and if now after developing of this port, if the ships are coming and going, especially cargo ships, obviously it will be affecting the movement of this leatherback turtles. Leatherback turtles can become extinct. That is one important animal species you have to remember. And next one is, in Nicobar forest region, we have Nicobar megapode and Nicobar tree shrew, only seen in this region. If you are going for cutting of forest, again this animal species can be diminished. And next important one here is saltwater crocodile. So as you all know that Bay of Bengal is a saltwater, yes. So here we can see saltwater crocodile, that habitat will be also get affected. So here one more important thing here is, animal species are going to be get affected because of this project. And very important thing here is, who will be living in this forest areas? Normally tribals. And in this Andaman and Nicobar region, we can see many tribal groups who are inhabiting in that region. The major tribal groups are Andamanis, Jarawas, Sentinelese, Nicobaris, Shompen, Ong. We can see these tribal groups which are present in this region. If we want to go for development of this project in this Nicobar region, we have to completely displace two tribal groups. One is Nicobaris, you can remember this easily, and second one is Shompen. If we are displacing these people from one area to another area, what happens? Their traditional forest rights will be getting affected. Yes or no? Because these people are normally like hunting and gatherers. So if you are displacing them from that area to another area, they may not get proper livelihood because they don't have proper skills for continuation of their livelihood. Okay, so these are the major problems of this Great Nicobar Development Project. Now you know where is Andaman Nicobar located, you know about what we are developing there, and now you came to know like what are the problems of this project. So because of these problems, many a times many environmental activists and as well as forest rights activists, they filed petitions. They filed petitions related to these challenges of Great Nicobar project. And especially in the present article, they are saying about one retired IAS officer and her name is Meena Gupta. She filed more than 100 petitions related to the challenges of this Great Nicobar project. And finally, now Calcutta High Court is taking that petitions, and Calcutta High Court rejected what government is saying regarding this project case. Okay, because of this it is in news. Okay, now if you see this article, title says that Calcutta High Court rejects government objections to Nicobar project. And here Calcutta High Court overruled Union government's preliminary objections to a batch of petitions alleging that it violated Forest Rights Act. So whatever the petitions which had been filed by this Meena Gupta, who is a retired officer, IS officer, whatever the petitions she filed, she said that the Forest Rights Act is violating. But on another side, government is saying that no, it is not violating. But finally, High Court, Calcutta High Court rejected whatever the central government is saying, and now High Court stand beside this Meena Gupta guys. Okay, here they gave one important keyword which is important from polity. I'll show you that keyword and you have to know the name of what is the meaning of that. So here court said that Meena Gupta, a petitioner in the case, did not have a locus standi to approach the court in this matter. So here you have to know what is the meaning of locus standi. Okay, you may get question in this way. Recently, locus standi is in news. What is this? From polity point of view, recently we discussed about one word called as amicus curiae. Yes or no? And now one more keyword that you can see is locus standi. Please make a note about that locus standi. So how can you get a question from this article here is, consider the following statements regarding Great Nicobar Development Project. Under that they may give you statements and you have to identify this, which are the correct and which are not correct. That is the first. And second here is, they may ask you about tribes. In serious examination, they asked about tribes. They gave, consider the following, and they gave 3 tribes, and they asked which of the above tribes are from Andaman and Nicobar region. So like that, you may get a question on this tribes. That is the second important possible question. And third possible question is, consider the following options. Which of the following explains best about locus standi? Like that, they may ask you a question regarding locus standi. So these are the 3 important areas that you have to see from this article point of view. Okay, now let us see this in detail, what exactly this is saying. Calcutta High Court has overruled Union government's objections to a batch of petitions alleging that it violated Forest Rights Act. So whatever the petitions which are filed before this Calcutta High Court, they are saying that there is violation of Forest Rights Act. But central government is objecting this. So now court overruled the objections of central government related to this petitions. Because of this, it is in news. So many petitions which are filed under this PIL. What is PIL? Public interest litigation. That means if there is anything which is done by government or any project, if it is causing harm to the large group of people, in that interest you can file a PIL. So here in this case also IS officer, she filed more than 100 PILs. And what are the litigations or allegations she is making here is there is violation of Forest Rights Act of 2006. And here they are saying that central government is saying that we took consent from Grama Sabha. You know this Grama Sabha, right? It is the lowest level in the panchayats. So here central government is saying that yes, we organized Gram Panchayats and we took consent for the diversion of the forest from this tribal people. But whatever the allegation she is making is the quorum is nothing but the people who are attending that Grama Sabha is very less, just 1 to 15%. But for approving of consent from Grama Sabha, we need to have at least 50% of approval or 50% of quorum. But here we have only 1 to 15%. But how can we take that as a consent? This is the first allegation made in that petition. And next one here is Grama Sabhas are inappropriate. Mainly the tribal council should be consulted. She is making one more allegation. Rather than Gram Sabha, we have to consult this tribal council. And tribal council earlier gave its consent, but later on it removed this or it withdrawn its consent because unsettled rights are there. There is increased pressure on this local people. And next one here is one more allegation she is making is like whatever the eco-sensitive buffer zone is there in this Galathea Bay where we can see this leatherback turtles and in this Campbell Bay is reducing. That means there is reducing of sensitive areas. Because of this, obviously it will be having impact on biodiversity in that region. And next one here is government is saying that forest rights are settled, but on the ground level it had not been settled. So these are the allegations which are made in this PILs. Okay, now please make a note what is locus standi. Locus standi is nothing but it is a right to approach the court. The doctrine of locus standi is a legal principle which says that it is a right to approach the court. Okay, locus means place, standi means place to stand. If there is anything which is done by government or any private people, if my rights are affected, then I can directly approach the court. But in this case, whoever IS officer who filed the petition, she is from Hyderabad and she is filing about the concerns of Andaman and Nicobar region. Okay, so because of this, what happened? She is not having a locus standi. So whenever we are talking about the PILs with a larger public interest, we can file these PILs. Not only the locus standi, that is the person who is affecting may not apply for this PIL. That is the same thing which happened in this case. She is from Hyderabad, but she filed these PILs in the interest of greater public because she already worked with environment department and as well as tribal affairs. So because of this, she know exactly what are the problems at the ground level they are going to face. So because of this, she filed PIL. Okay, according to this doctrine of locus standi, only a person whose legal rights are affected can file the case. And next one here is one more important point you have to see. It is about additional solicitor general. Recently, we can see this additional solicitor generals are highly seen in news. Already, if you see PYQs in 2022 or 2021, UPSC already asked question regarding solicitor general and additional solicitor general. If you are getting this kind of articles where additional solicitor general or solicitor general, they are attending the cases on behalf of government, you have to know about them. In Lakshmikant also, they didn't clearly give about this solicitor general and additional solicitor general. So you have to make a notes of that case. This year, I think you may expect a question on this additional and as well as solicitor general of India. So how can they give the question? Last time they gave about appointment process, what is their role? They gave only 2 statements and they asked you to identify the correct statement. This time also you may get a question on that. Okay. If you say about this additional solicitor general, he is not a constitutional post. Only we have Attorney General of India, which is a constitutional post, and this solicitor general and additional solicitor general, they are not at all a constitutional post. Very important point. And next one is they are governed by Law Officers Conditions of Services Rules 1987 case. And if you see the hierarchy of this law officers in our country, first one is Attorney General, below that we have Solicitor General, below that we have Additional Solicitor General. And if you see the appointment, who will appoint them? President of India will be appointing them based on recommendations of Appointments Committee. Okay, and next one here is, what about the qualification? There is no specified constitutional qualifications like AG, but they have to qualify to be a Supreme Court judge. And next one here is, what is the term and tenure? Generally they have tenure of 3 years and they can be renewable for further 3 years. They can resign and they can be removed as per this 1987 rules case. And you have to focus on these duties, what they'll do. So they will assist Attorney General and Solicitor General in legal matters, and they will also give advice to Government of India if they are referring any legal cases. And next one is, they can also represent Union Government in Supreme Court, High Court or any other tribunals. If they have to represent the government, they can go to the court and they can participate in that proceedings. And next one is, they will be performing even other legal duties which are assigned by the government. So these are the works which will be done by this Additional Solicitor General of India. You may get a question, guys. You have to see about appointment. And next one is whether it is a constitutional body or not. And next you have to remember about their tenure. And next one is what is their function. Okay, see this next question, next article, guys. Bangladesh failed to give actionable response, says India. Here you have to understand again the basics here. You have to know map of India. So here we have Bangladesh, right? India is sharing boundary on land with different countries. Which are those countries? Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Myanmar. So these are the countries with which India is sharing boundary. Okay, this time you can expect a question on Bangladesh, guys. Why? Because recently elections happened and recently referendum also happened in Bangladesh. What is the name of that referendum? I said this time you may get question on that. July Declaration? Yes? Okay. So here how can you expect a question? They may give you states. Consider the following. They will give you 4 to 5 states of India and they may ask you which of the above states are sharing boundary with Bangladesh. Yes. Now tell me, guys, which states of India share boundary with Bangladesh? We have West Bengal, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, one more, Mizoram. So these are the states which will share boundary with Bangladesh. And next one here is, they may ask you about the rivers. Yes or no? Here we have Brahmaputra river system. It will be coming like this. It will be joining. It will be entering into Bangladesh. Yes, now you may also get a question on Bangladesh rivers with which India is sharing, right? That means you have to see thoroughly about this Brahmaputra and Ganga river system. And next one here is, recently elections in West Bengal done, and which party came into power? BJP. Earlier, okay, so earlier government had been replaced with BJP. So here how this West Bengal politics is going to be changed, you have to think about that. And what are the issues which are present between India and Bangladesh? One is Teesta river issue. So always this Mayawati, sorry, not Mayawati, Mamata Banerjee, always she used to stop this river issue between India and Bangladesh. But now BJP is in power in this West Bengal now. How it is going to do agreement with Bangladesh related to this Teesta? That will be in news for sure. By next 1 year you will be seeing that Teesta issue will be there in news. So how it is going to change that you have to think from now onwards. And next one is, you have to say about some basic facts regarding this Teesta river also. And next important thing is, you have to see what are the challenges between India and Bangladesh from Main's point of view. One important challenge here is illegal migration. One important challenge between India and Bangladesh is illegal migration. now what India is doing is, recently we did this SIR. What is this SIR? Special Intense Revision. We cleaned our electoral rolls. Yes or no? So that is allegation which is made by this Bangladesh government, that because of SIR only we were defeated, like that. So there are many statements that are coming in the news. So here the thing you have to remember is how this SIR really affected this voter turnout of West Bengal. You have to see advantages of SIR and as well as disadvantages of SIR. You may get a question on that in your mains. And next, here, because of all this kind of exercise, now we are identifying who are illegal migrants. And after identifying these illegal migrants, what we'll do? We want to send them back to this Bangladesh. Okay, if we want to send them to Bangladesh, first we have to confirm the identity that people come from Bangladesh or Myanmar or not. So what India did is, India sent around 1,000 messages to Dhaka on repatriation of illegal migrants since 2020. From 2020 onwards, we are sending around 1,000 messages to Bangladesh, but there is no response from Bangladesh. So because of this, it is a news case. Okay. Now let us see this article in detail. So repatriation is nothing but once we identify that these people are illegal migrants in our country, we are going to send them back. This process is called as repatriation. Repatriation of suspected illegal Bangladeshi migrants from India. It is a long-standing bilateral irritant, which is mainly causing amplification of increased tensions between India and Bangladesh, at least across this border case. So if you see what India is saying here is, Bangladesh is not providing any action. It is not providing any actionable response. And we are doing messages more than 1,000 times we did message, but there is no reply from this Bangladesh. And because of this, now repatriation will become a core issue between India and Bangladesh ties. And India is saying that yes, we are following domestic laws, we are following procedure, and we are following on bilateral arrangements. But on another side, Bangladesh is not cooperating with us. So because of this, they are saying that it is going to have impact on India and Bangladesh relations. And next one here is, even it will be going to impact domestic politics, because now there is change of government in West Bengal. Earlier, the government supported this illegal migrants, but now this new government BJP may not show tolerance towards this. So because of this, obviously it will be having impact at the local regional level. That is the thing which mainly said. And here we are focusing on proper border management. And if you are going for complete fencing of India and Bangladesh border, we can control this kind of illegal migration to some extent. But even though there will be a contention between India and Bangladesh. So those are the things which are mainly said here, guys. And see this article, you can see one image, aircraft, under that there is one weapon. The name of that is Tara Glide Weapon. Please make a note, Tara Glide Weapon. It is important from your science and technology. Tara Glide Weapon. How can you get a question? First one is, recently Tara Glide Weapon is in use. Consider the following statements. They may give you 2 to 3 statements and they may ask you which of the above are correct or incorrect. That is the first. And second one here is, pair based question is possible. On one side they may give you Nirbhay, Barak, Tejas. What are the other equipments? INS Taragiri, like that they'll give you, and they may ask you what is that. In that they will include even Tara. Okay, or else they will be giving you in the pairs like whether it is indigenous technology or whether we brought from other countries. For example, BrahMos, it is made by both India and Russia. For example, Barak missile, it is from Israel. And this Tara, it is indigenous. So like that, they may give you in this way also in pair-based format. We cannot expect how the pair-based question will be. In 2025 also, there were 2 questions related to defense, especially equipments and the countries. So this time also you may get guess. In science and technology, you have to focus on only 4 areas. First one is space, second one is defense, third one is biotechnology, fourth one is computers and IT. If you are perfect with this 4, then your work is done. Don't take that much stress because you cannot remember each and everything in science and technology. It will be very tough. I can understand. But at least whatever the things which are there in the news in that 1 year, you are expected to know, guys. Okay, now let us see details of this. DRDO and Indian Air Force successfully conducted trial of Tara glided weapon. And the full form of this Tara is Tactical Advanced Range Augmentation. Tactical Advanced Range Augmentation weapon from the coast of Odisha. And if you see about the facts here, it is our country's first indigenous. That means it is completely made with Indian technology. It is first indigenous glide weapon system. And especially it is having advanced precision guidance weapon. That means if you are releasing this, obviously it will go and it will hit the target. And the important objective of this Tara is to provide low cost solution, and we have to increase accuracy of existing unguided munitions, and as well as we want to neutralize ground based targets. We can use the fighter jets, like we have F-21 fighter jets, MiG-21, right? So by using that fighter jets, we will drop these weapons and they will go and they will target this ground based system directly. That means they are from air to surface. The phenomenon of working is you drop it from the air and they will be targeting the things which are present on the ground. That means air to surface kind of target system that we are focusing on this. And the important features here is it is entirely developed with India's indigenous technology. And next one here is it is integrated with a variety of unguided warheads. By using this different kind of aircrafts, we can launch this. And next one here is the precision is very high. It will go and it will strike the target 100%. And this one is it is of low cost. Why? Because if you are getting technology from other countries or if you are directly importing from other countries, obviously the cost is very high. If you are developing with our technology in our country with our material, obviously the cost is less. So because of this, it is cost effective, and even the range of this weapon is very high. Okay, so these are the advantages of this weapon system. And say this next question, guys. 2 Indians on ship hit by Hanta virus. How can you get a question? Recently, Hanta virus is in news. Consider the following statements. You can get statement based question only here. Whenever this COVID-19 is in news, they asked about coronavirus. If Hanta virus in news, there is a chance of getting question on Hanta virus. So here you have to remember some important facts. I'll tell you what you have to remember. First one is Hanta virus is mainly spread by rodents. You know this rodents? Rodents are nothing but rat, mice, etc. From that family of animals, it will be spread. Very important. First one is it is carried by these rodents. And how the transmission happens from these rodents to humans? As you know, if you leave your home for 1 week and if you went outside for a trip or anything, after once you come back, if your house is having this kind of rats, what they'll do, they will smash everything, especially food items, and they will go for droppings. Excreta of this rodents will be like black colored small things that you can see, no? So actually what happens whenever these droppings are becoming dry, so whatever the virus which is present in that will be entering into the air. If you breathe air, obviously that virus will be entering into your body. That is the route of transmission. Transmitted to humans through inhalation of particle from dried rodent droppings. From the droppings of this rodent, if they become dry, that virus will be entering into air. If you are breathing that air in, that virus will be entering into your lungs. That is the way of transmission of this Hanta virus. And the people most typically become infected when a virus in rodent droppings or saliva or urine become airborne. That means from the saliva of rat or urine or droppings, whenever it is becoming dry, that virus will be entering into air. And next one here is once this virus enter into your body, it will primarily attack first lungs, and later on it will be targeting kidneys. So these are the two important organs will be targeted by this hantavirus, and it will cause hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. That means it will cause respiratory failure, and 40% cases there will be fatality. Fatality is 40%. And next one is, if it is severe, it will also causes the renal syndrome. Renal syndrome is nothing but it is affecting your kidneys. That will leads to low blood pressure, internal bleeding, acute kidney failure. That will also cause death. And if you see what are the symptoms, first symptoms will be like flu-like. If it is attacking your lungs first, what happens? You will get flu-like symptoms, fever, and the next one is after 4 to 10 days later, you will get cough, shortness of breath. That means you cannot breathe completely, shortness of breath. And next one is fluid will be appearing in your lungs. And if you see the treatment, there is no specific treatment for this hantavirus. Only based on your symptoms, they will give medicine. There is no complete medicine to kill this hantavirus. Okay, and here you have to remember one more important point. It is RNA based virus. If you see viruses, we have DNA. DNA which will be present in every cell, right? Even in this virus also they will have this kind of genetic material. In virus they have only they have like RNA based or DNA based. So here this hantavirus is RNA based. It is not having DNA. And next one is, once this hantavirus is infected for human, from human to another human, the transmission is very rare. Okay, if I got this hantavirus, I cannot spread this hantavirus to you guys because it will be inside me only. So human to human transmission is very less. But if you see coronavirus, human to human transmission is very high. Because of that, they ask to maintain social distance. Yes or no? You have to maintain a distance of at least 2 to 3 meters from one person to another person. You should not go for handshake or sharing of things. But hantavirus is not like that. Human to human transmission is very rare. Okay, see this next article, guys. A watershed moment in India's defense posture. Last year, in this month of April, Operation Sindoor, Pahalgam attack happened first. In that Pahalgam attack, one terrorist group of LET attacked Hindus, especially they targeted male Hindus and they killed male Hindus. And after that, in retaliation, India launched Operation Sindoor. In this Operation Sindoor, what we did? We strike down terrorist organizations related things. We crossed this LOC region and we attacked this terrorist organization groupings, right? And there we used different weapons. In retaliation, Pakistan also used different weapons against India. But because of S-400 missile system, we successfully struck down all these drones. So especially Pakistan got 300 plus drones from Turkey, right? And they used swarm attacks. Do you know the swarm attacks? At a single time, they released many drones. And successfully by using some Akash missiles and S-400 system, we strike down all those drones. There was nothing loss happened to India, especially on this border of India and Pakistan region. Okay, so here after this Operation Sindoor, we identified there are certain loopholes in our defense system. And once we identify that loopholes, then what happened? We will be trying to build on them. So here this article is talking about how we are focusing on our defense and how we are making our defense strong. On lessons we learned from Operation Sindoor is highlighted here in this article. Now let us see those. First important point here is we are focusing on subterranean warfare infrastructure. Now the focus had been shifted to construction of large scale underground command. We are focusing on building of underground command and control centers so that we can maintain operational continuity during active conflict. So if whatever installations which are present on the ground, they can be easily identified and they can be targeted. So that now onwards we are focusing on underground command and control centers so that we cannot see. Yes, nowadays we are having different Earth observation satellites and the precision is very high, so that whatever it is happening on the ground we can see. But if we have that kind of operations only on the ground, means it can be targeted by our enemy countries. For that reason, now onwards we are focusing on underground command and control centers. That is the first thing that we are doing. For this, we are focusing on C412 ISR, that is focusing on command, control and communications, computers, intelligence, information, surveillance and reconnaissance. So all these are focusing now, especially are focusing on command, control, communication, proper computer system and intelligence. Intelligence is nothing but sharing of information. Next one is surveillance and even how to do retaliation. So all these things are we are focusing now, so that on real time, at the time of that war, so how we have to act. All these things will be coming from this underground control and command stations. And next one is we are focusing on increasing of our technology, especially we are focusing on 3D printed bunkers, and we are focusing on fuel, we are focusing on ammunition and medical facilities. Okay, now there is one important update from Indian Army here is, now we are facing this problem of LPG crisis and crude oil crisis. If you are not getting diesel and petrol on time, obviously the weapons will not be functioning, right? If there is a crisis like war between India and Pakistan or India and China, if we are having this crisis of oil, can we sustain? No. For that reason, government is focusing on biogas and biofuel. Especially army is going for using of biofuel energy that is produced in our country. For that, government is developing biogas and biofuel plants in that region, so that if this kind of crisis is also there, our defense should be strong. That is a major reason. And which one is we are focusing on Indian air defense. As you all know that we learned a lesson that we are not focusing on drones. From that time onwards, we are focusing on development of advanced drones in our country. And not only that, we are focusing on this mission Sudarshan Chakra, and we are focusing on improving of our navy and as well as air force and as well as army related equipment also. And next one is we are focusing on counter drone strategy to neutralize enemy countries' drones. And next one is we are focusing on even improving of infrastructure for emergency landing. So recently Purvanchal Expressway, it is in use for emergency landing services. So like that, we are focusing on other areas where we can halt our vehicles in that emergency situation. And next one is we are focusing on improving of our air defense system. For that, government came up with one project called as Project Kusha. In that Project Kusha, we are focusing on development of long range surface to air missile systems case. So these are the things that we are developing after this post operation syndrome. Okay, see these questions. The first one, it is about hantavirus. Consider the following statements regarding hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. First one here is hantavirus are primarily transmitted to humans through rodents and their excreta. Second one is hantavirus infection always spreads from human to human. So whenever you are reading the statements, you have to identify, do we have any extreme words or not? All, always, never will be extreme words. Always means 100%. There is no chance of always 100% human to human transmission. So if you can see all, only, never, always, those will be extreme statements. So you can eliminate that. And next one is some hantavirus can cause. Whenever you are having this word some, the probability of getting that question right is 100%. Because we have many viruses species. In that only some may be possible. Do we know all these virus species? Can we remember all those things? No, right? Some, can, may, it is a possibility. So that statement will be right. Some hantaviruses can cause hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome. All may not cause, but some can cause. It may be, yes. So here the probability chances will be very high. So this statement will be right. And next one here is hantavirus are DNA viruses belonging to Orthomyxoviridae family. So if you see PYQ, If they are asking about virus, for sure they will change this. Many a times UPSC has this tendency that will change with RNA with DNA, DNA with RNA related to virus. And they will also ask this kind of questions if they give any disease. If it is caused by bacteria, they may change it with virus or protozoa. These are the two loopholes that you can identify related to the disease type of questions. So here it is RNA virus, not DNA. So what will be the answer? Second and fourth statement is wrong. So answer will be 1 and 3 only. Are you understanding? So in this way, there are certain tricks that you can use to identify which is the right and which is not. I'll tell you that, guys, on Monday or Tuesday after confirming how many students are right in this examination. Okay. See this next question. With reference to locus standi, consider the following statements. First one is it refers to legal capacity of a person to approach a court. That is the meaning of locus standi. Second one is in India, public interest litigation expanded the traditional concept of locus standi. Yes. So locus standi is nothing but the person who is affecting have to file the case. But here in this case, that IS officer is not at all affecting, but even though she filed petitions in court, that means this locus standi is expanding because of PIL. Yes, this statement is also right. Next one is under traditional locus standi, only a directly affected person could seek judicial remedy. In polity, whenever you are getting only, it may be correct. So actually what locus standi is saying that only the person is affected has to go to court. This means it is also right. Are you understanding? Only in most of the case it will be wrong, but not in the polity. Why? Because our constitution is rigid plus flexible. Some areas are rigid, some areas are flexible. If areas are rigid means there will be certain restrictions can be placed. That means only some people can do that. That is the rigid part of the constitution. So because of this, only is not 100% wrong in all cases in polity. Are you understanding? But in remaining subjects, you can eliminate it, but not in the polity. Because reason is our constitution is rigid plus flexible combination. Okay, I understand the reason. And this one, see here, locus standi is mentioned explicitly in fundamental duties chapter. So fundamental duties are there in which article? Article 51A. How many fundamental duties do we have? Have you heard about locus standi anywhere? If you are preparing very well for UPSC, for sure you have to read fundamental rights, duties and DPSP. Those are the important areas. Have you ever heard about this locus standi? I think many of you are hearing this term for the first time. That means it is not there. Always UPSC use this word explicitly. This is mentioned in constitution. Means obviously that will be wrong. Okay. So what is the answer? 1, 2 and 3 only. So in that way you have to approach your polity questions. Okay, that's all guys. By this I am concluding. Thank you so much for watching this class, and if you like this class, please do hit the like button and please do share this class to your friends. And if you want to start your preparation, we are going to launch a new batch for GS Prelims the Mains Foundation on this Monday, guys. And we are providing on both on online and offline. If you want to know the further details of this course, or if you have any queries or questions, please do contact us on this number 8074765513. And if you want to visit our academy, you can come and you can visit and you can talk to me directly. Our academy is located in Ashok Nagar, Hyderabad. It's exactly above Vikas Book Center, 2nd and 3rd floor. And I wish you all the best.